Hello YouTube, this is Dazzathecameraman. Today is Monday, October 23rd, 2017, New Zealand time, and I'm pleased to have with me Tiffany, the nerd with attitude. Welcome along, Tiffany.
Hello.
Thank you for joining me, and we're going to be discussing David Meade and his past claims and books that he's published and the research that Tiffany and I have been doing recently. We've been doing a lot of digging and we've found some very interesting things that we're going to share with you. And Tiffany has just uploaded this video, David Meade, Unrepentant False Prophet, to her channel. And so you can find that on her channel. There's also a link in the description area underneath my heads up video. I'll also put the link underneath this video, and we take a look at some of the past publications. So we're going to use this video as a basis for this hangout and go through that video and comment as we go. Did you want to have anything that you want to add as an introduction, Tiffany?
Nope, not really.
Okay, well, before we start with the video, I just want to point out that here in New Zealand, of course, we're at the beginning of the time zones for all of the world, and it's just gone 12 p.m. midday, daylight saving time, on October 23rd, which I thought was interesting to mention because it's now exactly 1 month, of course, since September 23rd and the so-called sign in Virgo that never was. Now, I say never was because when we really scrutinize the sign, then Jupiter actually left the body or the torso of Virgo around about September 9th. So in fact, Virgo had already given birth well before September 23rd. So all of the key requirements for that so-called sign to be fulfilled weren't actually in place. So let's get started with the video. I'll be playing it with no sound, and we'll stop and start as we go through it and comment as we go. So this is from Tiffany, Nerd with Attitude, and her video, David Meade, Unrepentant False Prophet. David Meade, Unrepentant False Prophet. It appears that David Meade has been here before. We're going to look at what he's published under various names. Now, Jerry Greenoff, or Gerald Greenoff, the unrepentant numerologist, false prophet. First of all, who told him to do these calculations? It certainly is not in the Bible. God has always forbidden numerology. Jerry Greenoff is an unrepentant, confirmed false prophet. He is watching for dates, not Messiah Yeshua. Do you want to comment on that, Tiffany?
Yes, I thought that was actually a very good article. I didn't put the whole thing because if a lot of people are like me, this black and white bothers your eyes.
Sure.
So this one right here was just interesting because of all the things that they said, and then they put the list of like everything that he said, and it is the same things he's saying now. He's just changing the dates around and adding more stuff to it.
Right. And
this person saw that, yeah.
Yeah, and if we look at the top there where Tiffany has arrowed the red arrow there, this is from October 27, 2008. Okay, shall I carry on?
Mm-hmm.
We've got a long list of years that David Meade, or Jerry Greenoff, has been making these claims of the rapture. David Meade claimed the world was ending under the name of Jerry Greenoff at first. Here's another picture of Jerry, or Gerald. Any comment on that, Tiffany, before I move on?
Well, I put this one in because this one was the beginning of I guess the article, you can call it, that he wrote, and it starts off you know, kind of telling who he is and the things that he does, and then at the very end, if you push play to the next two, it shows how he was getting people to send him money so he could send them the PDF for the book. Like, before you get to this part right here, he's talking about all the other stuff that he does. And a lot of stuff he does has to do with fraud prevention. I think that's pretty ironic, being that he is a fraud.
Right. Now, I think it's important to mention this too, and I should have mentioned this right at the start. It is not our intention to dox David Meade or Jerry Grenoff. We have a lot of information on him. We have been doing in-depth research. We have his addresses and so on, and we will not be releasing that. And as you will see, as we get through the video and the material that we have to present, it's important to understand that David Meade has previously published under his real name. Otherwise, we quite likely would not be actually revealing his real name if it were not for that fact.
Right.
So on the screen, we can see that he's talking about Comet Elenin back in 2010. He states that he's an amateur astronomer. He says it was one of the few college courses I took that I received an A in. Well, we're aware of what he is qualified in, and I'm not sure that I'll actually mention that. It may come out in the detail here anyway. I'm certainly not aware of any evidence that he's actually studied astronomy at university, as he has claimed. He certainly does have a university qualification relating to his work, but there's no evidence of any qualification in astronomy, although he's made that claim. I should also add that I did invite David Meade or Jerry Grenoff to join me for a live hangout or a pre-recorded video where we could discuss his claims and he could defend his claims. The only response that I had, which was actually before I made that invitation to him, I sent him an email about all the stress and anxiety that he was causing. His only response to me was to send a copy and paste standard response of what he had already published on his website. So I've had no response back from him about doing a hangout. So he's talking about Comet Elenin there in 2010. We'll carry on. So this is what you were saying, Tiffany, about a lot of his publications. We see the same thing as we see here. Just remit US $12.95 to my PayPal account. You'll receive during the same day a PDF copy of the book. A Word copy is available also. Let me know your email address and send it to, which you've redacted. It's fully printable. And so we see this again where he is soliciting funds from publishing his books and so on. But there's an interesting thing about his books that we've discovered. Would you like to expand on that, Tiffany?
Say that again.
There's an interesting thing that we've discovered about the content of his books.
Oh, yes. For one, most of the Planet X 2017 book is 108 pages long, and majority of it is not his. He takes other people's stuff and copy pastes it, and then he takes stuff from websites that deal with numerology, and he pastes it, and then he takes his articles from the Planet X News website and he just sticks all of it in there. And when it doesn't happen, he takes the book off of the internet and then he repacks it into another book with a different year.
Right. So we're seeing two things here. A lot of the content is not actually his own. It is stuff that he's actually ripped off websites, which is publicly available anyway, written by other people. He repackages it into his own book and publishes it. And then when nothing happens, he takes it down and then he repackages it with a new cover, new claim, new year, and puts it out there. And obviously, I think it's fair to say that this last book, about September 23rd, has been his most successful book or publishing of his books so far. And I think a lot of that was really driven by particularly by the UK tabloids, the fake news, so to speak, that really jumped on board, because it's all about clicks, of course. And you know, it was driving people to their website. They're getting views from it, so they really jumped on board and were pushing his posts. Now, just before I go on from this, I think this really reinforces the point that I was making before, that it is not our intention to dox Jerry Grinoff, but he has published under his real name, as you see here. And Tiffany has redacted his email address, and she has redacted his personal address that he published. He's probably moved since this one. He's lifted a number of addresses over the years. But notice here, you know, he goes through about sending the $12.95 to his PayPal account, gives his personal email address. If it's easier, just send money order to my address, and be sure to include your email address for the book. My address is, which has been redacted. And then right at the bottom here, what do we see? It's signed Jerry Grinoff. So we're not doxing him. We're presenting information here that is already out there in the public domain, information that he has put out there himself, as he has published these books previously under his real name.
If we're not trying to dox him, we're just trying to show people that he's been doing this for a very, very long time, a very long time.
Right.
Exactly 17 years, unless he was also doing it before, you know, the stuff on the internet.
Right. Now, I assume, Tiffany, that this is a website called the Doomsday List or something like that. Would you just like to clarify on that one?
Okay. Well, this one is not from the Doomsday List. It takes you to that, but it is someone who was just had a website where they just have a whole bunch of failed end of the world prophecies, and it's got all of them on there. And then I put this one, but I also put the one from Doomsday, from the Doomsday List. I think the Doomsday List is on Wikipedia.
Right.
So what it is basically they're putting people who have said the world was going to end. Basically, they put them on blast over there on that website, you know, letting people know, hey, this guy's been doing this. He's done it before.
Right. So this goes back to September 2000. And again, David Meade or Jerry Grinoff was using various passages from the Bible to, I think that's meant to redefine the state, or divine the state. Yes, I guess that would apply as well. His prediction, of course, has been removed from his website, but it remains listed at the Doomsday List.
Yep, that's what he does. He removes them and then he does it again on a different date. Yep. Now, this is from the actual Doomsday List.
Right, and you can see arrowed there. This is quoting Jerry Grinoff, and this is back to September the 2nd, 2000. September 2 sees the end of the Jewish year 5760. Jerry also seems to think that this will be the absolute final year of this present age. The conclusion is based on a number of impressive factors, but what sold it for me was the wonderful Bible codes matrix that Jerry found. Ooh, so there's a bit of sarcasm there with the tone. And so here we go again. May 21st, 2005, Rapture 2005, Tribulation 2005 to 2012. Well, hang on a minute. Isn't David Meade claiming that the 7 years of tribulation is starting about now? Yep. But he's previously said that the rapture would occur in 2005 and that the 7-year tribulation would be between 2005 and 2012. So a new book has just been published that concentrates mainly on searches for words contained in the book of Revelation. It is Future Prospects for the World According to the Bible Code by Joseph Noah. A lot of significant new details have been discovered in this book, particularly for the period 2010 to 2012. So I will outline them here. Again, we see him repackaging other people's work. I think they call it plagiarism. Although I don't agree with part of the book's philosophies that differ, in my opinion, from basic Christian theology, here are all the ELS Bible codes. That's ELS's equal letter sequence. Could this be the bookends of the tribulation period according to the book of Revelation in the Bible, he asks. Can you just clarify this one here? Where did this one come from? I assume that these words are David Meade's, Jerry Grenoff's?
Yes, yes. The next one, you're going to be able to see his name at the bottom. It is just
Right.
a website that he was posting on.
Okay, so it goes on to say, decide for yourself.
Yeah, but it is down there.
Yep. Yeah, I can see it just under the line if I play it. Let's get my cursor out of the way. There we go. Posted by Jerry Grenoff. And,
I'm horrible at throwing arrows.
Okay. So he says the tribulation time will be between 2005 and 2012 when 4 billion people will die. Does anybody remember that happening?
I don't.
I think I must have slept through that one again. He states that in 2005 a false Arab-Israeli peace treaty will be signed. 2006 the new temple in Israel. Arab-Asia alliance formed. In 2008 temple desecrated and 2 prophets killed in Jerusalem. In 2010 Third World War, he states, H-bombs used, biological warfare causes the boils pestilence. Oh, this is great stuff, isn't it? An asteroid fall having broken up into 3 pieces on California, Utah, and western Nevada. I love it when they're specific like this.
Yes.
California. Yeah.
You just read my mind. That's exactly what I was about to say. He's very specific.
And he's actually been very specific for events for the month of October as well, which I just love. So he says, an asteroid falls having broken up into 3 pieces in California, Utah, and western Nevada. California floods and sinks. Don't remember that happening. The Earth's crust slips relative to the rotation axis, giving a 5-degree pole shift. Well, I don't remember that happening either. In 2011, he says, 3 more asteroids hit Russia, causing a 10-degree pole shift. I must have slept through that one. 2012, an additional 3 asteroids strike China, causing another 10-degree pole shift. Gosh, the poor old Earth's been wobbling around like a spinning top. Japan and the Philippines are lost underwater. Undated prediction of the impact of the Wormwood asteroid on the Arabian Gulf. And that was posted by Jerry Grenoff, aka David Meade. So, yeah, as I say, when you give specifics like that, you really, you really make a rod for your own back, don't you? Because when those events don't happen, just like the events he's predicted for October haven't been happening, then you expose yourself as being a false prophet.
Definitely.
Now, Taylor Forensics, this is interesting because with the various iterations of his name that he uses, Jerry Grenoff, or Gerald Grenoff is his given name, or GT Grenoff, or JT Grenoff he also uses. And the T, his middle name, is Taylor. And here you see Taylor Forensics. And he has also posted articles online using this name, Taylor Forensics. So that's another one to watch out for. He says, I write investigative books. If you're interested in my latest book, please page down to the bottom for information on this, my 3rd and by far most important book. It is an investigative report in a class all its own. I've retitled it Planet X, Mysterious Death of Dr. Robert Harrington, a true story for literary purposes. The former title was Planet X, a 7-year survival guide. That is under Taylor Forensics. On October 27th, 2008, Jerry Grenoff wrote to Five Doves, which is a website, with the article entitled, "It All Fits for 2008 Rapture." Anybody remember that in 2008? I must have missed that one too. In that article, he wrote that Wednesday, October 29, 2008, will be day one of the tribulation. Hang on a minute. Didn't we have the tribulation from 2005 to 2012? So now he's saying...
And he was very certain about it.
He was very certain about it. Now he's saying that day one of the tribulation is from October 29, 2008. So what does that take us through to? 2015, isn't it? My maths is right.
And then they leave September 23rd and October.
Yeah. Ted Porter and others have come up with the same calculations. Can it just be a coincidence that there are so many things pointing to this 2,520-day period, this sabbatical cycle, this Jubilee year, with everything seeming to conclude on Feast of Atonement, September 23rd, 2015? Hang on a minute. Doesn't that date sound familiar? September 23rd. Have I heard that somewhere before, Tiffany?
Yes, every year.
Every year, September 23rd.
Especially this year. A lot of people seem to forget that they set this last year.
Yeah.
The year before that.
That's right. Between
September and December of every year, we're all supposed to die.
That's right. And this year, of course, it supposedly really came together because of the so-called sign in Virgo, with Virgo giving birth to Jupiter and clothed with the sun, with the moon at her feet, and crowned with a crown of 12 stars. Well, as I mentioned at the start of this hangout, Virgo actually gave birth to Jupiter, at least by September the 9th, which was some 2 weeks before September 23rd, when the moon was at her feet. And for that so-called sign to actually be in play, then all 4 points actually have to be in play together. Not 3 out of 4, not 2 out of 4. All 4 out of 4 have to be in play. And she had already given birth by September 9th at the latest. By September 23rd, Jupiter was actually down by her knee, looking at the illustrations. So I don't think you could say that that the woman was pregnant and about to give birth on September 23rd when the moon was at her feet. So there we go again, September 23rd, 2015, and therefore starting on October 29, 2008. So he's talking about the tribulation starting there. Never in history has there been such a perfect fit for the final 7 years. Not even close, he says. Where have we heard statements like that before?
He says it every single time.
He says
every time.
Every time. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. And moving along to the next slide. Okay, so excerpts. I watched the History Channel last night, and there was a program on about the Bible codes, and mostly rabbis and Jews interviewed. According to one researcher, Armageddon is encoded with the year 2010 in the fall. Gosh, I've slept through a lot of stuff, haven't I? I felt such an urgency you can't believe. All the other codes have been saying the same thing, which people have been researching. The Feast of Trumpets this year seems to be it, says Jerry Grenoff, aka David Meade. Well, apparently everything was coming together for 2010 as being the year, and here we are 7 years later. You've done a great job on this video, Tiffany. Well done.
Thank you.
False prophet Jerry Grenoff is prophesying the rapture will happen on January 11th, 2009. So I guess in the next slide again, we'll see where this particular slide has come from. And do you want to just clarify that, Tiffany?
It was the same one from the beginning, the black picture. It is that same person.
Okay. So false prophet Jerry Grenoff is taking a bunch of dates and events that are non-January 11, 2009 specific, and figuring out the odds of it happening, and then claiming it adds up to a chance in 1.06 quadrillion of them being a coincidence, when he concludes, which he concludes means Messiah Yeshua will rapture his true believers on January the 11th, 2009. Well, I think there'll be a lot of disappointed believers out there when they hear that they got left behind on January 11th, 2009.
Even him.
Even him, yep. I guess he wasn't good enough, eh? He has been very sure about it many times. Yes, he has indeed. And now, this screenshot I recognize, this is directly from David Meade's Facebook page. Now, of course, his Facebook page is not really his personal Facebook page because his name is not David Meade. He has openly admitted to using a pen name for writing his books. And so this is a screenshot from his David Meade Facebook page. As you can see, he posted this on 2nd of October 2014. Rapture on Tabernacles 2014. And this was uploaded on to one of his websites. And, oops, let's just jump back to that one. Rapture 2015. July 2015, Rapture of the Church. There's another one from his Facebook page. Rapture 2015 and Planet X, that was posted on 17th February 2015. Planet X will pass Earth before November 2017. Well, we're right at the end of October. As I say, it's the 23rd of October now, so he says before November 2017. You've only got a few more days left in the month, David.
Well, he narrowed that down. He was very specific about that day, too. It's supposed to be the 5th.
Right. And we're going to come back to that, I think, later in your video here as well. So, as I say, I love it when they're so specific because it really comes back to bite them on the ass. November 3rd, 2008. Letter 23, the second coming of Christ on or at the end of the Feast of Sukkot, September 28th of October, September 28th to October 4th, 2015, the day of the blood moon, lunar eclipse as stated by Nasar Ans, whoever that is, discovered by Pastor Mark Biltz of Shaddai Ministries' response to Mr. Jerry Grenoff. Okay, I remember that there was a lot of, or a big deal made about the so-called tetrad of eclipses that occurred a few years ago, and Pastor Mark Biltz was getting a lot of publicity, just like David Meade did, with his claims about these eclipses and what they were going to bring. And yet here we are, it's now 2017, almost at the end of 2017, and here we are.
Go
ahead, Tiffany.
What they're saying is that during when the time when the Bible was written, they were afraid of eclipses. They didn't know what they were.
Yeah.
They're using the fear of people who didn't know any better to say that they're harbingers of evil. That's what people thought. But it was because they did not understand what was happening.
That's right. And same with comets, of course. To see a comet in the sky was a portent of doom.
Yep. And that's just mainly because they didn't understand.
Now, this is a very important point here. This is a verse out of Deuteronomy 18, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Which the question is asked, how shall we know if a prophet is not a real prophet, is basically the question. And the answer comes back in Deuteronomy 18. If the prophet speaks in the Lord's name, but his prediction does not happen or come true, you will know that the Lord did not give that message. That prophet has spoken without my authority and need not be feared. So any of these people that are claiming to make predictions or explain prophecy and make specific predictions, as David Meade or Jerry Grenoff has done, and these events don't come to pass, then basically they're a false prophet, and they should not be listened to. They should not be feared. So here we go, October 28th, 2013, Comet Ison and the Return of Jesus. This is one of my favorite ones because, again, he's very specific in his details in this book about how Comet Ison was the sign of the return of Jesus and the rapture. And let's take a look at the next slide and we'll see that. So here are some of the claims that David Meade made in this book, Comet Ison. Matthew 24, 30 to 31, he's referencing there. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven. David Meade states, Comet Ison is the sign. It is unmistakable. And you can see he's got that in caps lock there. No man knows the day or the hour, but the sign has been revealed. From Matthew 24, the disciples asked Jesus in verse 3, tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? And as David Meade states here, the sign of his coming is Ison. Again, in capitals for emphasis. The sign of his coming is Ison. It is set to be 15 times brighter than the moon and will be visible in broad daylight. Does anybody remember that?
I do.
Not me. Not me. I don't remember that. I do remember that Comet Ison disintegrated as it went around the sun, just like Comet Ellerman did. It is set to be 15 times bright. Yeah, I've read that. Its arrival date, November 28th. That is a typo there, by the way. That is meant to read 2013, the very first day of Hanukkah. If you check the date of Hanukkah for 2013, you will see that it started on November 28, or I think it said on the evening of, was it November 27th or 29th? I can't remember, but it ties in there with November 28th. Remember that the Hebrew calendar, the days start in the evening. So that is actually meant to be 2013. So he's very specific that Comet Ison was the sign. And let's look at the next slide because there's more detail there. Love that juicy detail. So this is from the contents of the book. Proof that Comet Ison is wormwood. Well, that's a pretty big statement, because if you read in Revelation what it has to say about wormwood and all of that, well, Comet Ison certainly was not wormwood. The absolute season for the rapture in the year. Oh, again, there's that very emphatic statement. The absolute season for the rapture in the year. An object in the sky precedes the rapture, which he's referring to as being Comet Ison. God's infographic revealed. He talks about other points there. How Comet Ison ties to Planet X Nibiru. And all the other stuff that he usually peddles when he repackages his various books. Just jump in if you want to add anything on that there, Tiffany.
No, I'm good.
Yes, he's also very sure of it again now, just as he's always been very sure of it every time. The next event that follows is that Planet X will fully eclipse the sun and cover the whole Earth and full moon in shadow on the next full moon date. This is Thursday, October the 5th, 2017, the following full moon date. Our clue that this is the date is from Revelation chapter 6, verse 12, which he goes on to quote. Well, I seem to have missed that one again as well, October the 5th, 2017. Does anyone remember the whole Earth being eclipsed and the sun going black during the day, and the moon being in full shadow, a blood red moon as described in Revelation chapter 6, verse 12. I certainly don't remember that. Did you see that, Tiffany?
Nope, sure didn't.
Well, you know, you're sort of on the other side of the planet from me. We've got several hours difference between us, and you know, maybe all of this happened during my nighttime and maybe during your daytime, but you're telling me you didn't notice it either. So I didn't see anything on the news, and none of my friends online have said anything about it. So, you know, I'm guessing it didn't actually happen. The major signs that converge on September 23rd are indeed amazing, but those are celestial events. They are time markers. The mainstream media states that something visible will occur on these dates. I don't believe that, says David Meade. The actual event of the beginning of the tribulation occurs on October 15. That's when the action starts. Hold on and watch. Wait until the middle of October, and I don't believe you'll be disappointed. Well, again, we're up to the 23rd. Yeah, I mean, there's things happening in the world. There's always been things happening in the world, and at various times, people have thought, you know, this is it. This is the tribulation. This is, you know, this is fulfillment of prophecy. The First World War, they thought that was happening. The Second World War, you know, I remember even the Gulf War in the early 90s when the oil fields in Iraq were burning and the sun turned black during the day and the moon looked red in that locality, of course, not for the whole world. And people were quoting, was it Joel, if I remember correctly, about blood and fire and billows of smoke, and they were saying it was fulfillment of prophecy. And of course, Saddam Hussein was the king of Babylon, and it just seemed like it was all fulfillment of prophecy, and yet here we are in 2017, almost 2018.
And he said that on the 15th, the two witnesses were supposed to appear.
Right. I haven't seen them.
Nope.
Now here he is, David Meade. My most recent astronomical cryptography, I like to pronounce that as cryptography with an A, cryptography.
Cryptography.
My most recent astronomical cryptography of the imminent judgments approaching begins in the week of October 21st, 2017. The end of days, in my opinion, and remember, we see through a glass darkly. He's making reference to a verse in scripture there, will begin in the latter part of October of 2017. Not the end of the world, but the end of days as prophesied in the Bible. The world is not going to end, but, as I've stated before to reporters, the world as you know it will end. It will change. Normal sea bias will cease. Now, he's saying that this will begin in the latter part of October 2017. Well, let's check our checklist. What happened on the 5th of October?
Nothing.
What happened on the 15th of October?
Nothing.
What happened on the 21st of October?
Nothing.
And let's go back to the 23rd of September. Did anything particularly happen on the 23rd of September?
Nope. It's all
Nope.
fine and dandy.
I'm so looking forward to the beginning of November. Because, by the way, I can't remember if you cover this in the end of your video here yet, but a full-blown nuclear war between North Korea and the US and UK is supposedly meant to break out in this last week of October, according to David Meade and the other various prophecies that he's repackaged in his books, which actually came from other people. I might come back to that.
Originally he said between October the 5th and October the 21st, everything that he had said was going to happen was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Rapture, all that stuff. At first he said that on the 21st is when the nuclear war was supposed to happen. He says they're supposed to sneak up on America. And to be honest, that sounds kind of stupid. I'd
Yeah.
like to see somebody sneaky saying they're actually going to come to America in a submarine. We're not going to know it.
Well, the other interesting thing is that he said that there was going to be this massive earthquake, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think was going to affect the whole world, but specifically was going to split the US in two.
Yep.
And that there were going to be simultaneous tsunamis on both the east and west coast of the US. And do you remember what date that was supposed to be?
The 21st.
21st? Okay. So there's been this
That's when the
massive
war was
earthquake.
supposed to begin. The war was supposed to begin on the 21st.
Right. Okay. To be fair, I have seen him state that the war was going to break out in the very end of October in the last week.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. The week of the 21st. He's changed it in different articles. He says different things. He contradicts himself a lot.
Well,
So
he has to keep shifting the goalposts.
yeah, and now he's saying November. Yeah, okay.
Right. He's shifting the goalposts again, of course. He has to sell more books. But, you know, it just seems a bit ridiculous that there's supposedly this massive earthquake, which is going to affect the whole world. There's going to be this massive double tsunami. The US is split in two. And then you've got North Korea sneaking up on the US to launch a nuclear attack. Well, somehow I think that if these events, this big earthquake and tsunami, were as bad as the picture that David Meade paints, then I think that North Korea and the rest of the world would be having bigger problems to worry about on their own back door rather than picking a fight with anyone else. It just doesn't make any sense at all.
Yep. Nope. With the technology that we have, I do not see that happening. I don't see anybody sneaking up on us like that.
Yep. So wolves in sheep's clothing. False teachers are dangerous. Jesus says to beware in Matthew 7:15. He points out that they overthrow the faith of some. 2 Timothy 2:14-18. And this is the thing, of course, is that when people claiming to be Christians start picking dates and making predictions and saying that this or that is going to happen on specific dates, and those things don't happen, it destroys the faith of many.
Yes.
Because although there's a lot of people that are freaking out about such predictions, there are a lot of people who actually look forward to the rapture or whatever. So you've got these date setters saying that the rapture is going to happen. For example, there's one other chap who I believe that David Meade has actually drawn some of his information from, who claimed that the rapture was going to happen on October the 5th. And he set up a website, he's on YouTube, and he made some very specific predictions. Now, this particular individual, I'm not going to name him because I believe that he was sincere. He wasn't selling any books, he wasn't taking donations, he didn't even have his videos monetized. But he sincerely believed that the rapture was going to occur on October the 5th, and of course it didn't. Mm-hmm. And making predictions like that can really destroy the faith of many when you start trying to claim that the Bible says this and the Bible says that, and then of course this happens. In fact, this other chap that I'm referring to said that God made it very clear to him, yes, 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 he said, for October the 5th. And of course nothing happened. So, you know, what are you supposed to do with that? False teachers are deceitful, appear innocent and harmless. They deceive others and themselves, 2 Timothy 3:13. Now, of course, what this is all about with David Meade is selling books and making money. Buy my book. We keep on hearing from David Meade, you need to buy my book. And now he's saying again, you need to buy another one of his books, because he's always putting out new books. The goalposts keep changing, and you need to buy his book. And as we mentioned earlier in this hangout, that 75% at least of the content of his books is actually information which is freely available online and is not even his own content. He's actually ripped it off, copied and pasted, and packaged it into his own books.
This is the book we need to buy.
This is the book we need to buy. So that was the cover in the previous slide?
Yes. Well, that is the cover for the article on Planet X News.
Okay. And so this is a description about the book, David Meade. So this is from the, what's the website called?
PlanetXnews.com.
Right. Now this should not be confused with the website by Scott Cohn of Planet X Nebula News 2016 or whatever. It's a different website. So he says the battle over the presidency of the United States will determine the fate of civilization. The financial empire created in London is teetering. Catastrophic collapse is on the horizon. Their own players are warning us that the collapse is imminent, as former German Finance Minister Wolfgang Schäuble said last week in reflecting on the massive liquidity papering over the escalating debt bubble, which he himself helped create. My book, The Coup d'etat against President Donald J. Trump, contains the only way out. You've got to buy my book. Buy my book.
Once again, his books are the only way. You must buy his books.
Yeah. Now, didn't he also...
happening? Why do we need this? This makes absolutely no sense to say that the end as we know it is coming, but the president is what's going to determine the fate of the civilization. That makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah. Now, didn't he also publish a book not that long ago about I think was it the crash of the US economy under Hillary Clinton as president?
Yep. Before Trump became president, he was writing that Hillary was going to be president.
Yeah.
I think his prophets, his dreams are not giving him the right dates. You should really look into that.
Mm. The right dates and not the right details, not the right events. Nothing ever happens. Okay, so I see that we've jumped back here to August 10th, 2009, and this is taken from a website again.
It's a forum.
A forum?
And, okay. Yeah, and then when I was doing the research, this is a link that it sent me to, and I thought it was kind of funny. So if you read it, and then because he said that there was people were defaming him, and he demands that they stop it. And this person is the one that did it, so he's telling what happened. And I thought it was funny.
So Mr. Grenoff, or Jerry Grenoff, has informed counsel of the defamatory content posted using his name and references to him within this forum and demands immediate removal and apology. Govern yourself accordingly. Okay, says Virgil. It took me a while of digging to find out what this weird submission was all about, but here it is. Years ago, when this website was first created, I compiled a list of funnies, quotes from people with funny hair and TV evangelists who have been claiming the end of the world is happening every year since the 70s. Apparently, Jerry Grenoff is one of these people. His quote, "The 2nd of September is absolutely the beginning of a final year of this present age," appears in the funny stuff block on the left here once in a while. So now that the end has not come, is this actually defamatory content? Or does he just look silly? He's predicted the rapture already in 2008 and it didn't happen. So again, this is 2009. And yeah. More egg on David Meade's face, and of course he's trying to have it removed. I can see David Meade reinventing himself very soon with a new name, new identity, so that he can try and sell more books. Okay, this one here, Tiffany?
This one was above top secret, and it was a post on there and they you see it's from 2009, but they're talking about it's basically says the same thing, and then you remember how it said ooh, and then they just put failed
Yeah.
right there.
Right. So that's the one that we read earlier, and ooh, failed, it says right there.
It was basically just showing other people had caught on to him back then as well.
Right.
And it makes sense that he changed to a pen name, because people were starting to, by 2009 and 2010, people, it had been 10 years since he started doing it. So people were like, you're a false prophet, dude. Nobody's going to listen to you. So I think that's why he changed his name.
Mm-hmm. You can identify them by their fruit, that is, by the way they act. Yes, just as you can identify a tree by its fruit, so you can identify people by their actions. Indeed. False prophet, for profit. So just to recap here, it is now October 23rd, 2017. We've just gone through in this hangout and looked at David Meade's claims and prophecies going back to the year 2000. That's 17 years ago. We have found through our research that David Meade, or Jerry Grenoff, or Gerald Grenoff, or JT Grenoff, Taylor Forensics, Jerry Taylor, and all of the other names that he calls himself, has been claiming that the rapture was going to occur and that the tribulation was about to start in the years at least 2000, 2003, 2005, 2008, 2009. I think we've got 2010 in there with Comet Allen as well. Yeah. 2013, 2014, 2015, and now 2017. And no doubt we can look forward to 2018 as well, as he shifts the goalposts once again. So this is David Meade, or Gerald Grenoff, who has been posting these articles for 17 years and possibly longer. Done some excellent research there, Tiffany, and I thank you for you putting that together in such a clear manner that we could base our hangout on.
You're welcome. Yeah, I just, you know, after September 23rd passed, you know, there were a lot of people who were very happy, you know, okay, false prophet again, you know, but he didn't say the 23rd. And like I've said before, I'll give him that. He didn't say that, but all the other stuff that he said was supposed to happen didn't happen either. So I basically felt like we needed to let people know that he's doing this, because there are people who are still afraid right now. We're still getting posts from people who are still afraid, and I feel like he's done a lot of damage to people and he doesn't care. And that really, really bothers me when someone who calls themselves extremely religious does very ungodly things, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel that it will help soothe a lot of people's anxiety knowing that he's been wrong this many times. And as far as we know, it could go back, because he gets his rapture tribulation from Ken Peters. And that was around the 80s or the early 90s when he came out with a so-called dream that he had. So he could have been doing this much longer, and, you know, over the years it's just missing. But, you know, one of the other things that I want to say is we want to make sure that people know that we don't want anybody to do anything stupid when it comes to this man. You know,
No.
there are a lot of people who are very upset. And then the real David Meade, he received so much hate mail and all that kind of stuff like that, you know. And basically, I just feel like everybody needs to just understand that this guy, he's just a liar. He's been wrong over and over again. He can't be a prophet and be wrong at the same time.
No, that's right. And as you pointed out with that quote from Deuteronomy 18, if the predictions that the person makes in the name of the Lord don't come to pass, then they're a false prophet and they should not be feared. And this guy has been doing this at least for the last 17 years, possibly longer. He's been making the same claims going back at least to the year 2000, and he's been doing it pretty much every year or every other year since. And it's all about buy my book, buy my book. You have to buy my book. It's all about money. So he is a false prophet for profit. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Tiffany. Have you got anything that you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, I think we've covered everything. And I just hope that this does, you know, help some of the people in the group to be able to calm down and understand that this guy is not to be taken seriously. Just like the Daily Express, don't read it. The Sun. I think those two are the main ones that are pushing doomsday all the time. And the best thing to do if you're nervous about that is don't click it. If it says them or any other tabloid, don't even click it, because then you're doing it to yourself. You know, you're giving yourself fear. If you go back through the Daily Express, you'll see they've done this for years. It's tabloids. It's basically what they do. So don't believe it. Don't click it. And that's basically it.
Right. Thank you, Tiffany, and thank you to everybody for joining us in the chat and for watching the video. And no doubt we'll have some more for you another time. So for that, stay tuned and thank you for watching.
Good night.
Good night.